All right, we're going to look at two books today. First book is The People of the Abyss by Jack London. And this is written 1900 thereabouts. It's not a novel. It's more like a journalistic endeavor, an exercise, a mission where Jack London went into what was then the largest city, London, and he went into what was the largest slum area, which was Whitechapel, and he reported on the conditions there by purporting to be a regular man down on his luck, without employment, and he writes about his experiences. Now, it's very interesting. He went in there and he had a what he called a safe house at the edge of Whitechapel, and he would go to the safe house every so often to get a clean bath, delouse his clothing, eat a proper meal, something that, of course, the tenements there, many of them in Whitechapel, had no recourse to. They had to live where they lived, but you don't really begrudge this of London, because he's bringing us the information. It's an astonishing report, and it's almost like the CEO who disguises himself as an employee to find out how his company is actually working. Well, London goes into the down and out area of London, and to find out how the other half lives, so to speak, to see what poverty really is, how crushing it is. He reports fairly, as I can make out, on the various churches, Salvation Army, various philanthropy groups who will want to help men and families who are injured, past their prime, no longer employable. That's a sort of sociological message throughout the People of the Abyss, and it is really affecting in to see how people are have to get along, made to get along, how the thunderbolt of injury will strike them and ruin their lives. No workman's compensation, nothing like that. And so, families, he reports as one who believes too. This is the other thing that the People of the Abyss do, and this is again, I would say a fault of the times, not a fault of the man. This is London believing in social evolution. That is, people evolve a certain way, and that's how they'll. Well, a lot of that's just bunk. And there's you can't confine people to certain classes and run the evolutionary model on sociological groups. You still hear it occasionally, but London, that was current at the time, and that was not only fashionable but current at the time. And so it was the ethos. It was in the air. It was how else would he have interpreted this? Yes, okay, but as you're reading that, you're aware of this. It's some, as the saying goes, not so much the fault of the man, it's the fault of the time. But anyway, this remarkable book has it's worthwhile to read. It's not slow. It reads astonishingly well. It is not really dated, despite the fact that all of this has changed. It is worth learning and knowing what London and Whitechapel, East End of London, looked like and felt like, and the reality, what it was like for the people who live there, and the people who would merely tip their hat at this. I think London is able to expose, some of the hypocrisy of the greatest nation, colonial nation on earth, having not figured out to help its own people in so flagrant a manner. The second book we're looking at is called The Lodger by Marie Belloc Lowndes. And she was the sister of Hilaire Belloc, and who another famous, accomplished writer. And she wrote this astonishing novel called The Lodger, and it is fiction, but she places it in the Whitechapel region of London, 1888. And 1888 should ring a bell with you. Whitechapel should ring another loud bell. And this is because this was the year in which Jack the Ripper terrorized London. So what Lowndes has done is she's written this astonishing novel. I don't really go in for not murder mysteries, or I don't read a lot of that. It's not a slasher. It's not a slasher novel. More like a psychological novel. And she's used everyone's knowledge of Jack the Ripper to place this in the story in context. And The Lodger really is a psychological thriller, and it follows the tale told very well with two people who were in domestic service, and one was a butler, the other was a cook or a maid, and they decided to open up their own boarding house. And Lowndes, the author, takes us through this and explains how difficult this is for them, and with great detail. She shows how they both left domestic service and set out as entrepreneurs and trying to make do, and how bad luck plagued them, how they couldn't find what they needed. The lodgers were few and far between. He had to sell his livery service costume, so now he can't serve. And it looked, everything was moving toward extreme difficulty. And so they were even arguing about whether or not they should light a candle to put it under their sign, room to let. That's how bad off they were. So she does a great job in explaining this, and you don't even stop to think, when is this going to start? We're already invested in this plight. They're in a plight. And then comes the knock on the door, and the mysterious gentleman who comes in, pays hard cash, takes not one room, but 2 rooms, and pays several months in advance. The landlady comes downstairs crying to her husband saying, "We have been saved." And this, of course, as we start reading along, the terrible murders start occurring, and they all start, as she herself starts noting, with agonizing certainty, that their tenant might be indeed the very culprit people are looking for. And but again, it's not done with a slasher mentality. It was, I think, published in just before World War I, so there's none of that gratuity. Very well done psychological, edge of your seat thriller novel. And if you have the background of the people of the Abyss and the description of that neighborhood by Jack London, it makes for a nice pairing, and where one book can give the principal landscape to the other.